Welcome to the Art of Plenty. This is Amy McInnes, and I got a question for you. Does Christmas suck for moms? Here's my answer. Yeah, it can, but it doesn't have to. Do you remember that SNL skit from 2020? Oh my gosh, every time I think about it, it gives me the giggles. We will perhaps share the link in the show notes. But basically, for those of you who missed it, there's a family of 4, a mom, a dad, and 2 kids, and a dog. And they're essentially like rapping or singing about all of the things that they got for Christmas. And it's bananas, the amount of stuff that they get. And the mom, the wife, she gets a robe. She gets burned making the Christmas breakfast. I won't get into it because I'm definitely not doing it justice. But when that came out, it was hysterical to me and my family because, first of all, I pretty much live in a robe from, I don't know, like November till May because my house is really cold and I don't like being cold. So I pretty much wear a robe all the time when I'm home because, I don't know, our house just doesn't ever seem warm to me and I like being warm. That's one of the bonuses of perimenopause is when you warm up, it's actually nice not being so cold. Sidebar. Anyways, I'm always in a robe, so we were chuckling about that. The other piece is the year that skit came out, my kids got Star Wars Lego. If you know the skit, you'll know why that's funny. I think they get like a Millennium Falcon. That's not what my kids got, but they got Star Wars Lego, and the dad gets like a thing for a pizza oven, which is exactly what I had bought my husband that year because he had a pizza oven and he didn't have a way to get the pizzas out. We thought that was super funny. But if you listen to my episode on gift receiving, you know that I'm not amazing at receiving gifts. And so Christmas, like my birthday, can be a bit hard for me. So when I don't get a lot of gifts, I actually feel better. So even though the SNL skit is about moms not getting stuff, for me, I'm like, it's kind of okay. I kind of do better with that. But I think this skit hit home for so many moms because I think the general sense is that at Christmas time, we can feel super unappreciated. We carry the responsibility a lot in families for making Christmas magical, and it is a lot of work. And then you can get to Christmas Day and feel very unappreciated when everybody else is getting appreciated. So can we just talk about, for a moment, the mental load that the wife often carries within the family? So we're talking about the behind-the-scenes, emotional, cognitive work that it takes to manage a household. These are kind of the silent things that we do, right? It's the invisible things that you don't necessarily know are happening and you can't really put your finger on it because it's not necessarily tangible. It's making sure that everybody knows where they need to be. It's all of the scheduling. It's the meal prep, it's the thinking about things. Like, it is a significant mental load. And I don't know if it's possible for the mental load to be shared between one person. I don't know. Because in our house, I'm the person in our family who does all of those things. Now, I'm not responsible for executing everything, not by any chance. My husband does a ton of stuff for our family, and he's the primary cook in our household. But I'm definitely the person that has to think about all the things, do all of the scheduling, make all the plans, know where everybody has to be, write all the schedules out. And it's a lot when you're a family of 7 that you are coordinating. Now, Christmas has the same type of mental load. I am, as a mom, juggling all of the Christmas lists. So what I'm talking about is what I need to do. So all of the scheduling piece, where we need to be, where kids need to be, because the schedule shifts at Christmas. There's way more parties. There's way more things going on. we have more to do, but that doesn't mean that regular life has stopped. So I'm carrying the mental load of scheduling and coordinating for regular activities and then slicing in all of the Christmas bonus stuff. It's also thinking about special outfits. And this matters even if we don't do like a dress up event, which we sometimes do where we're going out somewhere and the kids are going to dress a certain way, like for a piano recital. But it also includes if they need special clothes for Christmas or if they're doing choir or a Christmas concert, then there's often the responsibility of figuring out what the kids are going to wear for those things. It's also baking, it's hosting, it's decorating. Now, decorations, are somewhat simpler because at least in our household, because I don't do all the decorating and we just do the same decorations for the most part every year, with the exception of our Christmas tree. We usually do different themes. And when we change the theme for the Christmas tree, we just use different things around the house. One year we covered our Christmas tree in single socks. I don't remember whose idea it was because we often share and plan together what the Christmas tree theme is going to be. So one year it was somebody thought we should do a sock tree. I'm telling you, it was the easiest Christmas tree we ever did. We just hung up all our single socks. When you have a family of 7, there are like hundreds of single socks that don't have a pair. And I have bags of them that I keep in the back of my closet because I think socks should be paired. So when I find singles, I just put them in there until we find the pair. I've stopped doing that recently because my kids like to wear mismatched socks. So I'm like, what's the point? I'll just dump all these socks in their drawer, or they will because they do their laundry. At least a lot of them do. So yeah, we had a Christmas tree covered in socks. But I digress. Figuring out the decorations is not a huge mental load for me other than the Christmas tree and kind of managing what that discussion's going to look like and then kind of deciding and making the final decision about what the tree is going to be. But the other piece is gift giving. And I find that a lot. And here's why. Because I have to think, what am I giving my kids? So that's 5, remember? So what are my 5 kids receiving from us? And then what are those same 5 kids receiving from other people who phone me or text me and ask what they should get my kids? So if not all of my sister-in-laws buy for my kids, we've kind of switched things up over the years depending on what's going on and how crazy it is. For the most part, we don't shop for each other, but I have my husband's family. We typically shop for each other's kids because there's just the 2 of them, whereas my family is bigger. So we don't do that as much now, or we do when they were younger. We switch that up. But grandparents, I get a lot of calls of what should we get the kids? So I have to keep all of this sorted in my brain of who I'm telling what. And if they ask my kids directly, then my kids will say the same thing to a bunch of people. And then I have to figure out, well, who's actually going to give that gift, which is a big mental load. And I realize as I'm saying this, that this can come across as, not necessarily aware of how a lot of people live. And I realize that. I realize that having this mental load and having things like decorations and baking and gifts and schedules, it really is a blessing and it really is a luxury that we have so many people in our lives that want to give my kids gifts and that we can afford to give our kids gifts. So I realized that it's not like this for everybody, and not everybody has the same blessings or opportunities that we have had in our family. And Christmas can be a really difficult time for a lot of families, and that too creates a mental load when you as a parent want to provide certain things for your kids and you're not able to do that. So that's another piece is if you're trying to create this really memorable, magical Christmas, but you're not sure how to do it because you don't necessarily have the resources or the time. So how can we do this? Why do we as moms spend this energy, spend this time, spend this money, have all this investment to do this for our kids. Well, when I think about that, I think about being a kid and growing up and celebrating Christmas. And it really is, for me, about the memories and the feeling of closeness. I have so many fond memories of Christmas, and I really want my kids to have those too. So that's why I do it. That's why I invest the energy and the effort to do it. And it's kind of like what Simon Sinek says. And I know he's not talking about Christmas, but it really is about knowing your why. Because when you know why you do something, why you spend the time, why you spend the money, why you invest all that energy into it, it gives you fuel for when you're tired. You're like, I know why I'm doing this. I know why this matters. So that's the first step, I guess. If we were doing steps about this, I would say, make sure you know why. Now, here's my why. I've already told you a little piece about I want to create memories, but as a daughter of an entrepreneur, as a sister of many entrepreneurs, as a wife of an entrepreneur, and as an entrepreneur on my own or with my husband, Christmas is the one time in the year where there's not work. And that's because of the types of businesses we run. But there's no emails and there's nowhere to go. And the world feels a little bit more quiet to me when it's like that. Because even when we take holidays, and even when we took holidays when I was a little kid, we didn't necessarily have uninterrupted holidays or time off. We still don't as a family. My husband or I often get work calls or emails when we are away. And we know that that's a part of being an entrepreneur. And it's not necessarily about not having good boundaries, because it just doesn't always work that way when you own a business. But Christmas is the one time when it feels quiet. So because of that, Christmas matters to me. And compared to other holidays, Christmas gets a lot of hype. And I like that. I like the food, I like the music, I like the gift giving. I like the sense of connection. I like the attachment to memories. It's got a lot of depth to it. Plus, there's a spiritual component to Christmas that matters to me. And not all aspects of this holiday are commercialized. I really like its roots. So those reasons and the accumulation of those reasons is why I'm willing to really invest and do a lot of things to make Christmas special for our family. So if you know your why, the reason why you go all out for Christmas or you put all the investment in, but you still feel like no one treats you as you treat them, you might need to decide if this is about you or not. Now, what I mean by that is, if it is a bit about you, if you're not okay putting all of this output out into your kids without them reciprocating it, or if you don't want to have to carry all the work related to this and you still want to do it, but you need to feel a little bit more appreciated, I'm encouraging you to talk about that to your family. Bring it up to the kids. The flip side of that is you might just need to let a little bit of this go. And when I say a little bit of this go, I'm not necessarily saying the activities and all of the things that you do to make Christmas so incredible for your family. You might need to let go of that feeling of hurt that you shouldn't be in that situation, meaning that the feeling of bitterness or nobody appreciates me. Letting go of the bitterness or the frustration might be the part that you need to let go of. And you may need to let go of some of the things that you're doing too. Even though you want to be appreciated or feel torn about whether or not you should be appreciated when it comes to all this incredible Christmas stuff you're going to do, you really have to decide about it and just either let it go or reduce the amount of stuff that you're doing so that you feel better about the situation. But knowing that depending on what you cut out may have an impact on the way that you're doing Christmas, which may impact why you're doing it in the first place. That was a long, lengthy way to get out, which is basically what I'm trying to get out is figure out what you should be doing and do that. And if you're doing too much and you cut some out, it might feel different for some of the other people, but it might feel better for you. So figuring out what works for your family. And if you don't want to cut anything out because you really do want to do it for your family, then don't let bitterness or anger or that feeling of underappreciating get the better of you. Because if that's not why you're doing it, then don't let that come into play to push you out of doing the things that you feel like you want to do. Now, in saying that, we may need to simplify things a little bit, right? Because Christmas can get crazy, and especially when you have a big family. I find even for myself that when December rolls around, it's almost like I'm too busy to work. I have too many extra things that I'm trying to do. And in the past, when I've tried to get a lot done in the month of November, whether it's the shopping or the wrapping or the planning, if I can get things done in November or at least spread that stuff out over 2 months rather than 1 month, I typically enjoy December a lot more because then I get to do all of the things that I'm really excited about, like all of the projects or the crafts or the spending time. But it's really about figuring out what is too much. And if you can't quite nail that down, because I definitely feel like that, I definitely feel like I can't quite put my finger on what it is that's too much, just notice yourself. Notice what you're doing and notice what's working for your family. Are there things that you spend so much time over and then your kids don't even notice it or appreciate it at all? But if you notice what's going on this year, then you can make some more significant changes next year. In order to simplify things, you kind of have to start with a list of what actually falls into your domain. So I talked about what was on my list, things like shopping, things like figuring out clothes, but other things that could be on other people's lists are hostess gifts. If you're going to lots of parties, do you have to organize things that you would take? What about hosting get-togethers and having people over? I typically don't have a lot of people over at our house just because our house is small and I never feel like we have room. So hosting isn't a big part of our Christmas, but those are huge things if they're on your list. So once you've got your list there, ask yourself, what do you enjoy doing and what gives you the most joy this season, as well as what gives the most joy to your family and what do they seem to enjoy being? And then collect info from your family. Don't just assume that you know what they love because kids change and they always say the most bizarre things of what they actually appreciate or want or like. So talk to your family members and ask them things like, what are the most impactful parts of Christmas for you? What are the things that you look forward to the most? What do you wish we did differently? And just start to collect information because you might find after talking with them and after thinking about this and coming up with your list, there might be things that you can actually eliminate quite easily and cut out, which might include giving yourself permission to just let it go. Just let it go. And yeah, just because you've done it for the last 6 years doesn't mean you have to do it this year, especially if nobody's necessarily noticing that. And if there are things that your kids are really saying that they love, involve them in the process. I'm all about that. Create Christmas together. Now, for me, one of the things that I find most overwhelming about Christmas is the amount of stuff. And I wasn't realizing why that bothered me so much until I was actually planning this episode. I am the person in our family that carries the mental load for everything that comes in and leaves our house. So what does that mean? I'm the one that thinks about our clothes getting too small for the kids. Do kids need new clothes? Have kids outgrown that toy? What are we going to do with that toy? Who are we going to hand it down to? Pretty much anything that comes in, all of the papers from school, all of the homework assignments, the completed art projects, I'm in charge of all of that. mentally. Anything that comes in or goes out of the house, I'm the one that's thinking about it. And because we have so many people and because we have such a small house, that takes a lot of energy and a lot of organizational effort. And Christmas time, I get so excited. But then after Christmas, I find it extremely overwhelming. Just even opening presents, because we have, like I said, a small house and we're in a small living room. When you have 7 people opening gifts, I can get really overstimulated and try to figure out, okay, what do we do with all of this stuff? And it actually can stress me out. So one of the things that I do to kind of overcome that is I start to try to get the kids to think about what we could eliminate from our rooms or pass down or give away or consign or sell in November to make room for the new things. And I also ask my kids to think about gifts that are more experience-based or opportunity of getting together. Like, for example, I don't buy gifts for my sister-in-laws, but we do try to get together sometime after the holidays, because pre-holidays, it doesn't work, especially for just us to get together. So I found that by being deliberate about that, that helps me to feel better over Christmas, and I don't get as overwhelmed with thinking about all the new things coming in if I've taken care of eliminating some of the things, and so we have more space for it beforehand, but also just thinking about ways to reduce stuff, like I said with my sister-in-laws. Well, that was a lot. Does Christmas really suck for moms? Maybe, but it shouldn't. And if it does, we got to fix that, because in a family, something that's incredible and amazing for most members, it should be shared. The joy should be shared. I hope this is helpful. I hope this is speaking to you. I hope you've been like, oh, that's why I feel overwhelmed at Christmas. Maybe you are carrying too much of the mental load here. Or maybe if you are carrying a lot of the mental load, maybe you need to shift off some of the things that you're doing or change some things up. Because kids are incredible. And for the most part, they probably don't want you feeling that way either. So finding ways to bring them in to the process may help to shut off that feeling. Or if that doesn't work for you, there's some good options there about letting some things go and simplifying. That's what this podcast is about. It's about sharing information that can make our lives better and make our lives richer. All right. This is The Art of Plenty. I'm Amy McInnes. Shoot me a message if this is speaking to you. Or tell me some ways that you've simplified your life this Christmas.